Have you ever felt like there's a hidden reality?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like a set of rules no one ever explained to you.
Yeah.
Almost like something subtly, nudging you
Yeah.
away from your true potential.
Right.
Well, get ready, because today's deep dive,
Okay.
we're going to unpack all that
Right.
and talk about the ways control operates in our lives.
Often without us even realizing it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, what's interesting is that this feeling you're talking about, this sense of being controlled,
Right.
it's not a new thing.
Right.
People have been talking about this for a long time, and we're going to examine how some of those ancient wisdom traditions,
Okay.
psychology, philosophy, even religious texts, offer us some clues about how to break free.
I love it. And we've got some fascinating sources for you all today.
Yeah.
Everything from the ancient mystics
Right.
to modern psychology
Mm-hmm.
and spiritual teachings from around the world.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be looking at all of that today
Okay.
to really understand these forces of control.
Mm.
Are you ready to challenge some assumptions?
I think so.
Maybe even see the world a little differently.
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Let's start by considering this. What if the reality we perceive is just a carefully constructed illusion?
Okay.
Ancient spiritual texts refer to this as Maya,
Maya.
this veil that obscures the truth. And Maya is not some kind of abstract concept. It's actively shaped by forces like the media, education, even the culture we're raised in.
So instead of seeing the world objectively, we're seeing it through a filter created by those forces, almost like we're being programmed without realizing it.
Exactly. And psychology offers some insight into why we often don't question this programming.
Okay.
There's a concept called cognitive dissonance,
I've heard of that.
which basically means we'd rather cling to comfortable lies than face uncomfortable truths.
Oh, that's tough.
Think about it. How often are we truly encouraged to question the status quo?
It seems like going along with the established narrative is often rewarded, while questioning it can lead to being ostracized or ridiculed.
Precisely. And this reluctance to question the status quo
Right.
is a fundamental mechanism of control.
Interesting.
Carl Jung, a renowned psychologist, explored this in his book, The Undiscovered Self.
Okay.
He argued that blindly conforming to mass thinking
Right.
can actually trap us, disconnecting us from our true potential, our individuality.
So we're not just passively accepting information, we're actively participating in our own mental imprisonment
Yeah.
by refusing to question what we're told.
Is that what Yoon was getting at?
Yes, and our source material takes us even further, linking it to how media outlets use fear, politicians use emotionally charged language,
Oh, yeah.
advertisers exploit our desires to reinforce this illusion of control.
Wow. So it's not just about what we believe. It's about how those beliefs are manipulated and reinforced by the systems all around us.
Right.
I'm also noticing this idea of manipulation isn't just a modern concept.
Right. Even spiritual texts from various traditions warn about this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, the Quran talks about deceptive forces whispering falsehoods, and Buddhist teachings describe samsara,
Yeah.
this cycle of suffering fueled by ignorance and desire.
What's crucial to remember is that these illusions, these manipulations, only hold power if we choose to believe them.
Okay.
The moment we start questioning the narrative, the control starts to weaken.
If questioning everything is the first step towards breaking free, how do we even know where to begin?
Mm-hmm.
And after all, knowledge itself seems to be carefully controlled by certain institutions, really.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Throughout history, those in power have guarded certain types of knowledge very closely.
Yeah.
Think about the ancient mystery schools in Egypt or the esoteric teachings of early Christianity.
Right.
Access to wisdom was often restricted, shared only with initiates who were deemed ready.
It's like they understood that knowledge is power, and they didn't want just anyone wielding it.
Exactly. Manly P. Hall, in his book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, sheds light on how symbols and myths were used to encode profound truths.
Okay.
These weren't just stories. They were teachings designed to unlock higher consciousness and empower individuals.
But it seems like today, the opposite is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Our sources suggest that modern institutions often restrict access to knowledge to maintain control.
Right?
I mean, think about it, the education system. It prioritizes rote memorization over critical thinking.
Right.
Media outlets filter information to shape public opinion.
Mm.
And even technology, while promising freedom, is increasingly used for surveillance and data collection.
Yes, the control of information is all about maintaining power and keeping people dependent and compliant.
It reminds me of that line from the Bible, "The truth shall set you free."
Yes.
Knowing the truth Understanding how things really work, that's what ultimately liberates us from these systems of control.
You've hit on a key point there.
Okay,
The Upanishads, ancient Hindu texts, emphasize jnana yoga,
jhana yoga.
the path of knowledge, as a way to achieve self-realization and break free from the limitations imposed by ignorance.
So breaking free from control isn't just about questioning everything. It's about seeking out knowledge.
Right.
The kind of knowledge that helps us understand ourselves and the universe around us.
Mm-hmm.
But if everyone had this knowledge, wouldn't that completely disrupt the current power structure?
That's a fascinating question to consider.
Yeah.
Imagine a society where everyone understood their creative potential, where everyone was living in accordance with universal laws,
Right.
where everyone was connected to a higher consciousness. Would manipulation through fear, scarcity, and division still be effective?
It's a very thought-provoking idea.
It is.
But how did we even get to this point, where control is so deeply embedded in our systems? Was this like a deliberate plan or just an unfortunate evolution of societal structures?
Well, to understand that we need to delve into the structure of control itself. It's often depicted as a pyramid of power, where a small elite controls the vast majority of resources, while the masses are kept distracted and dependent. And this structure isn't limited to politics. It permeates corporations, religious institutions, even cultural ideologies.
So it's a system designed to keep those at the top in power, no matter what.
Yeah.
But how do they manage to maintain this control over such a vast and diverse population?
Well, Edward Bernays, considered the father of public relations, laid out a blueprint for this in his book Propaganda.
Okay.
He argued that public opinion can be meticulously crafted through media narratives and psychological tactics.
Interesting.
He even coined the phrase engineering of consent.
Engineering of consent.
Yeah.
That's a pretty chilling concept when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It implies that our choices, beliefs, even our desires can be manipulated without us even realizing it. It's like we've been saying, these systems are designed to operate beneath our conscious awareness. And warnings about this type of power structure are kind of woven throughout history, right?
Yeah.
Religious texts caution against those who seek to accumulate power through deceit. The Quran condemns those who spread corruption.
Right.
And the Tower of Babel story in the Bible serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of centralized power, driven by ego and ambition. It seems like history is full of warnings about hierarchical control, yet we keep finding ourselves caught in these similar traps.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways these power structures maintain their grip on society?
One of the most effective tools is division.
Okay.
By keeping people in conflict with each other based on differences like race, religion, or class.
Right.
Those in power prevent unity and collective awareness.
It's classic divide and conquer.
Right.
But it's not just about creating conflict, it's also about fostering dependence, right? Our sources highlight how things like financial debt, limited access to education, and reliance on these centralized healthcare systems all contribute to this cycle of control.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Every dependency reinforces that illusion that escaping the system is impossible. But ancient wisdom offers us a different perspective. The Tao Te Ching, for example, advises rulers to govern with humility and avoid creating artificial hierarchies.
And the Bhagavad Gita, a Hindu scripture, emphasizes inner mastery over external control.
Right.
It encourages us to rise above worldly attachments and find true power within ourselves, rather than seeking it from these external authorities. It's like you're saying, true freedom comes from understanding that we're not defined by these external structures. And Buddhist teachings remind us that true liberation lies in transcending these worldly desires. By breaking free from the endless cycle of chasing fleeting pleasures and external validation,
Right.
we can step outside these systems of control and find lasting peace and fulfillment.
It's about recognizing the game and choosing not to play by their rules.
So it's not about fighting against the system head on. It's about shifting our own mindset, our approach to life.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing the game
Yeah.
and choosing not to play by their rules.
Precisely. The moment you see through the illusion, the grip weakens.
I like that.
True power lies in inner mastery, the ability to align ourselves with higher principles regardless of external circumstances.
And that brings us to a very interesting question.
Okay.
What are those higher principles? How can we tap into them?
Absolutely. Let's uncover the hidden truths that have been right in front of us all along.
Okay, so we've spent some time unpacking how these systems of control operate. But now I'm really curious to explore those universal principles you mentioned.
Yeah.
Are these like secret keys to unlocking a hidden reality or something?
That's a great way to think about it. What if I told you the keys to unlocking your limitless potential
Okay.
are hidden in plain sight, obscured by layers of distraction and misinformation? We're not talking about a secret code like something out of the Da Vinci Code, but rather certain universal principles that are woven into the very fabric of reality.
Okay.
These principles have been taught and forgotten and rediscovered throughout history.
Right.
They're not specific to any one culture or religion, but represent fundamental truths
Okay.
that govern our experiences whether we're aware of them or not.
That's a pretty powerful concept.
Yeah.
So understanding these principles is the key to reclaiming our power.
Let's start with one of the most powerful yet often misunderstood principles, the law of cause and effect.
Okay.
This isn't just some mystical concept.
Right.
It's a fundamental truth recognized by philosophers, scientists, and mystics alike.
Okay.
Every action, every thought, every emotion creates a corresponding reaction.
So you're saying what goes around comes around, like karma.
It's more nuanced than that. It's about universal balance.
Okay.
While this principle is often referred to as karma in Eastern traditions,
Right.
the true meaning goes beyond the simplistic notion of like cosmic punishment or something like that.
So it's not about keeping some kind of karmic scorecard.
Exactly. It's about understanding that our actions, thoughts, and emotions have consequences.
Right.
They create ripples in the fabric of reality
Right.
that ultimately affect us and those around us.
That makes me think about something we discussed earlier, how our perception shapes our reality. Is there a connection there?
Absolutely. Philosophers of science have explored this through the lens of phenomenology,
Okay.
which examines how reality manifests through our individual perceptions and experiences.
Right.
The way we see the world quite literally shapes our reality.
So if our perception is clouded by fear, negativity, or limiting beliefs, we're more likely to experience those things in our external world.
Yes, and that brings us to the ancient Egyptian concept of Ma'at,
Ma'at.
which represents cosmic order and justice. Living out of harmony with this universal law creates chaos, not as a punishment,
Okay.
but as a natural consequence of misalignment.
It sounds like to experience harmony and order in our lives,
Right.
we need to align ourselves with these universal principles. Do you have any other examples of these principles and how they work?
Consider the wisdom found in the Kabbalion,
The Kabbalion.
a text that explores Hermetic principles.
Okay.
One of the key lessons is the principle of correspondence, which states, as within, so without.
I've heard that phrase before, but never really grasped what it meant.
Right.
How does that principle work in our daily lives?
It speaks to the interconnectedness of our inner and outer worlds.
Okay.
Our internal realities, our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions
Okay.
shape our external experiences.
So if we want to change our outer world, we need to first change our inner world.
You got it.
Okay.
The Bhagavad Gita,
Right.
a Hindu scripture, teaches a similar principle through the concept of dharma, or righteous action.
Okay.
Aligning ourselves with dharma, with our true purpose, creates harmony and success.
And in Buddhism, we see this idea reflected in the Eightfold Path, which emphasizes aligning our actions, thoughts, and speech with universal truth to reduce suffering. It's amazing how all of these different traditions point to these same underlying principles.
It really speaks to the universality of these truths,
Yeah.
which makes you wonder, why are they so often dismissed as mystical nonsense in modern society?
Well, if you think about it, acknowledging these principles would shift power away from external authorities and back to the individual.
Right.
Maybe that's why they're not emphasized in mainstream institutions.
Yes. If people understood their own power to shape reality through their thoughts, beliefs, and actions, it would make them much harder to control.
It all starts to make sense now. So these universal laws have always been there, quietly shaping our lives, whether we realize it or not.
Right.
It's like we've been given a rule book, but told to ignore it. But here's a question that's been bugging me. If these laws are so absolute, what does that mean for free will?
Now that's a fascinating question. Have you ever stopped to wonder if the choices you make are truly your own?
Yeah.
Or if they're subtly influenced by forces operating beneath your conscious awareness?
Honestly, after diving into all of this with you, I think about it all the time.
Right.
It really makes you question everything you thought you knew about free will
Right.
and the power of choice.
That's understandable. Modern society loves to tout the idea of free will, making us believe we are the masters of our destiny.
Right.
But beneath the surface, there are unseen forces that constantly shape our beliefs, desires, and even our very understanding of reality.
That's like we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
the matrix.
Yeah.
Are we all just plugged into a system that's dictating our every move?
Perhaps not as dramatic as the Matrix, but there's a similar principle at play.
Okay.
From the moment we're born, we're constantly being programmed by our families, our education, our religion, the media. All of these forces contribute to creating a framework of acceptable behavior and beliefs.
It's like we're being molded into the people society wants us to be, not necessarily the people we truly are.
That's a key point. And this is where comparative philosophy offers some valuable insights.
Okay.
It distinguishes between moral relativism, where values change based on culture,
Right.
and absolute spiritual truths that transcend time and place.
So some truths are universal, while others are just cultural constructs.
Right.
How do we discern between the two?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the philosophy of mind dives even deeper into this, exploring how our thoughts, beliefs, and choices are shaped by both internal and external factors.
Right.
It's this complex interplay of nature and nurture, biology, and environment.
Wow, this is getting pretty deep. It's like we're trying to unravel the mysteries of consciousness itself.
And that's ultimately what this journey of self-discovery is all about. Understanding how our minds work, how our perceptions shape reality, and how to align ourselves with these universal principles is the path to true freedom.
I think I need a minute to process all of this. It's a lot to wrap your head around. But I'm ready to continue exploring this question of free will.
Okay.
If our choices are influenced by so many factors outside of our awareness,
Yeah.
can we truly say we're in control?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's one that we'll continue to explore as we move forward.
So we've been kind of wrestling with this whole idea of free will, right?
Yeah.
Acknowledging that our choices, well, they're influenced by so many factors that are, like way outside of our awareness.
Right.
Makes you wonder if we're all just puppets, you know, dancing to the strings of some unseen force.
That's a vivid image.
Yeah.
But perhaps a bit extreme.
Right.
The challenge lies in understanding how free will and determinism coexist.
Okay.
Are we truly independent agents? Or are our choices shaped by genetics, environment, and countless other factors, right?
It's that classic nature versus nurture debate. But if we can't fully control our choices, does it even matter? What's the point of even trying?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
Even if our choices are influenced by things outside our conscious awareness, we still have the power to become aware of those influences.
So it's about recognizing those strings,
Yeah.
even if we can't completely cut them. Like becoming aware of the program so we can, start to rewrite it.
Exactly. The first step toward reclaiming our power is to acknowledge those forces that shape our thoughts, beliefs, and desires. Once we see the strings, we can understand how they work.
Right.
And maybe even learn to play a different tune.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
It's not about being a puppet. It's about becoming the puppeteer of our own minds.
The journey of self-discovery is all about becoming conscious creators of our reality. It's about understanding those universal principles that govern our experiences and learning to align ourselves with them.
Right.
And recognizing that those principles are always operating, whether we're aware of them or not.
So it's not about achieving some kind of perfect state of free will.
Right.
It's about understanding the forces at play and learning to navigate them more consciously.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's about peeling back the layers of illusion.
Right.
Questioning the narratives that we've been given.
Right.
And discovering the truth of who we really are.
This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
I mean, we started with this simple question about control, but it's led us to exploring consciousness and reality and the power of hidden knowledge. It feels like a whole new way of looking at the world.
And this is just the beginning.
Wow.
There's a whole universe of knowledge waiting to be uncovered.
Right.
The more we learn, the more we realize how much there is still to explore.
It's exciting. It is.
And a little daunting.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely up for the challenge. What about you?
I am too.
What resonated with you most from our exploration today?
I think For me, it's that reminder that true power lies in awareness.
Okay.
The moment we become aware of the forces shaping our reality,
Mm-hmm.
we begin to reclaim our sovereignty.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So to our listener out there, don't be afraid to question everything.
Yeah.
Start peeling back those layers. You might be surprised by what you find.
Exactly.
Until next time, keep diving deep.